In the city of Viridia, the rain had a voice. It whispered secrets against the cobblestones and tapped out regrets on the window panes of old, forgotten apartments. For Elena, a restorer of antique books, the rain was the only sound that could drown out the silence her fiancé, Liam, had left behind when his plane vanished over the Atlantic 2 years ago. She was a ghost in her own life, her world painted in shades of grief and the brittle, yellowed pages of the past. Stories that touch the soul stay with us forever. If you want more of these stories in your life, become a part of our cozy world. Subscribe to Velvet and Vice and gift yourself more sensual journeys in the videos to come. Her sanctuary was the Quill and Atlas, a labyrinthine bookstore owned by a man named Cale. He was a silhouette against the backdrop of the city, a man whose own marriage had not ended in tragedy, but in a slow, quiet death of the spirit. His wife, Isabel, was a beautiful, distant star, present in name, but absent in every way that mattered. Their home was a museum of polished surfaces and unspoken words. Their story did not begin with a bang, but with a whisper of paper. Elena, tasked with restoring a rare 18th-century volume of love poetry, spent her evenings at a corner table in Cale's shop. One night, a single, fragile sheet slipped from the book's binding. It was not a printed page, but a handwritten letter, its ink faded to the color of weak tea. "My dearest C," it began, "they say our love is a vice, a dark velvet sin. But when I am with you, it is the only virtue I have ever known. This city may drown in its own judgments, but I would gladly sink with you. Forever yours, A." As Elena read the words, she felt a strange, piercing recognition. It was as if the letter had been waiting for her. She looked up and found Cale watching her from across the room, a stack of books in his arms. His gaze, usually guarded and shadowed, was now open, raw with a shared understanding. He didn't need to ask what she had found. He saw it in her trembling hands. He walked over. "The previous owner said this book holds many secrets," he said, his voice a low murmur that blended with the rain. "I never believed him until now." That was the first thread. The discovery of the letter became their shared secret, a mystery that bound them together. They began to meet intentionally, after the shop had closed. They would sit surrounded by the scent of old paper and brewing tea, piecing together the story of E and C from marginalia and hidden notes. With every clue uncovered, the space between them shrank. Their first touch was an accident, a reach for the same magnifying glass, a brush of fingers that sent a current of pure, unadulterated lightening up Elena's arm. She flinched, not from disgust, but from the sheer intensity of feeling something after years of numbness. Cale's breath caught, and he didn't let go. What grew between them was not a gentle affection. It was a storm. It was after-hours conversations that stretched into dawn, where they spoke of their losses, her abrupt void, his slow decay. It was the heat of his hand on the small of her back as he guided her through the aisles. It was the way her laughter, a sound she thought had died with Liam, would echo in the high ceilings of the shop and make Cale feel, for a fleeting moment, like a man alive. Their love was clandestine, built in the quiet hours between midnight and dawn. It lived in his small apartment above the bookstore, a space filled with light and messy piles of books, a stark contrast to his sterile home. There, surrounded by the evidence of a life truly lived, they explored each other with a desperate, aching hunger. It was an intimacy that was as much about healing old wounds as it was about physical passion. In each other's arms, they were not the widow and the trapped husband. They were simply Elena and Cale, two souls who had found a harbor in the same storm. But the world outside their velvet cocoon was relentless. Isabel's silent accusations grew heavier, and the ghost of Liam was a permanent guest in Alera's heart. The weight of their vice began to crush them. The end began with a found photograph. While researching the book's provenance, Elena uncovered a portrait of the original owner, a woman named Eleanor, and her lover, a composer named Cassian. Their story mirrored their own, a forbidden, all-consuming passion that society had condemned. The final letter they found from Cassian was not a declaration of love, but a farewell. He was leaving to save her reputation, doomed to love her only from afar. The parallel was a chilling omen. The climax came on a night of torrential rain. Isabel, armed with suspicion and a private investigator's photos, confronted Cale. The confrontation was quiet, final. She would not grant him a divorce. She would let him rot in the gilded cage of their marriage. Simultaneously, Elena received a call. Wreckage from Liam's plane had finally been found, providing a grim, long-awaited closure. Shattered and believing their love was doomed to the same fate as Eleanor and Cassian's, a beautiful, tragic secret, Elena made her choice. She could not ask Cale to destroy his life, and she could no longer live in the shadow of two ghosts. She left him a single letter on the restoration table, next to the old book. My Cale, our story was never ours to keep. It was a stolen volume, too beautiful to belong on the regular shelves of our lives. I must learn to live in the light, even if it's a lonely one. Don't follow me. Let our memory be the amber that preserves this perfect, painful love.
Forever, eh?
She left Viridia, the city of rain and regret. Cale, reading her letter, felt a part of his soul tear away. He stayed in his marriage, but he was more a ghost than ever. The shop thrived, but its heart was gone. A year later, on a sunny afternoon unlike the rain-soaked days they shared, a package arrived for Cale. It contained the fully restored book of poetry. With hesitant hands, he opened it. There, pressed between the pages of the final poem, was a single, dried forget-me-not. And on the inside back cover, Elena had inscribed two words, a final, quiet rebellion against fate. Find me. And for the first time in a year, Cale felt the storm inside him begin to quiet, replaced by the first, fragile whisper of hope.